Okay, so I was just giving an introduction to NISA, which you know a lot of this anyway. I've known Anissa for 20 years. So what I'm just asking, Anissa, is for people to just mute. And then as I go through each section, I'll pause and give you an opportunity to ask questions if you want to.
Okay.
So we started using homeopathy, and then it pretty much replaced everything. So I still use herbs a ton. I love herbs. But I started using it for everything. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to switch gears here. So I started studying homeopathy informally at first and then formally through school. So I'm about halfway through my clinical program right now. And so I'm already certified as what's called an acute care prescriber. So I can look at acute illnesses and help people make some recommendations. But my goal is to be able to do chronic care eventually. So like I said, we have been able to cure everything with homeopathy. I'm talking, like I said, ear infection, strep, tonsillitis, rashes. I mean, anything you can think of, any type of acute illness, any injury. I've helped people not have to have surgery because of serious knee injuries, wrist injuries, urinary tract infection. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the more I saw this work, I was nothing short of amazed. I'm like, wait a minute, you can just take these little pellets that are non-toxic and you can watch something like, my children have had stomach flus where they were vomiting, diarrhea. I figured out the right remedy for them, and within 20 minutes, everything stops. So the diarrhea stops, the vomiting stops, they perk up, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm hungry, Mom. And it's like, a turnaround like that is, and I've seen that happen so many times with homeopathy that I'm nothing short of amazed at how it works. So my goal is really to try and get as many moms and just people in general to start trying it, because once you try it and you have that success with it, you start replacing all other medicines with homeopathy. And you start realizing you have this tool, this simple tool in a simple little box that can take care of, 90% of things that you've got going on in your life. And I haven't been to a doctor for a, infectious disease or an illness, except my son ruptured an eardrum, and I went to the doctor for that just to have him check up on it. But other than that, I've been able to cure everything just at home with homeopathy. So I want you to be able to have that success too and feel confident using it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you have the notes, great, you can pull it up. Otherwise, you can just kind of take a look. Where'd it go? There we go. And these are posted in the site, in the Facebook page. Okay, so let's see. All right, so okay, so to start off with, what is homeopathy? So I got people messaging me here. Make sure everyone can get in that can get in. Hey, Nessa, I'm going to keep on going, but if you want to just check on the message there, somebody, I think it's one of the guys, one of them is trying to get in. All right, so what is homeopathy? So homeopathy was developed as a medical science in the late 1700s by a man named Samuel Hahnemann. It's the second most common form of alternative medicine in the world. So first is herbal medicine, and then third is acupuncture. So it's based on the foundation that like cures like. That's a very important concept in homeopathy. And so what happened is the founder learned that if a material was given in very high amounts, you could get a specific pattern of symptoms. But if it was given in micro doses, it can then turn around and cure those symptoms. So like, for example, in the late 1700s, doctors would use something called quinine to treat malaria. And so Samuel Hahnemann took high doses of quinine and he started developing symptoms of malaria. So he then figured out that if he gave himself a microdose of quinine, that it would cure the symptoms. And then he started treating patients with malaria who had the same symptoms, and he was curing it with these microdoses instead of the larger doses. So currently there's about 6,000 remedies, and there's more added every year. So it is a very complicated science. But generally there's about 50 to 100 that are used most commonly, and those are the ones that you'll kind of learn as you start going along. And so a fun fact, so the American Medical Association, homeopathy started becoming very, very popular in the 1800s because it was very effective, and it was very inexpensive. So doctors actually formed the American Medical Association, what we know now as the American Medical Association, to stop homeopathy. So that's actually how it started, which is kind of a funny thing. So, okay. So what are homeopathic remedies and how do they work? So they are made from plants. So for example, we have something like chamomilla, which is made from chamomile. We have belladonna. Those are all made from plants. There's a lot of them that are made from plants. And then we also have our mineral remedies. So things like arsenicum album, Hepar sulfuris, those are all mineral-based remedies. And then they can also be made from animals. So apis, for example, is a very popular remedy for bee stings. It's actually made from the honeybee. So they take the honeybee, they tincture it, and then they make the remedy from the honeybee. So it actually counteracts the symptoms of a bee sting. All right, let me see here. Okay. Hopefully no one else is joining because I can't see if they're trying to come in. Okay, so also like lachesis is another pretty popular remedy that's actually made from the snake, the venom of the bushmaster snake. So I know it starts to sound like witchcraft, like Eye of Newt and lizard tail, but that's actually how they made a lot of these remedies. So it's really interesting. So as far as, there's a lot of great homeopathic research, but as far as exactly how it works, we're still not completely positive how it works. But they do have some understanding that this is basically using nanoparticles. And what the nanoparticles are doing is they're actually activating your own power of self-regulation and healing. So, hi, Kelly. Looks like she's in. All right. How are you doing, Kelly?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I know this has been such a struggle for everyone, I swear. All right, so we're working through the notes here. We're on homeopathic remedies here.
Okay.
Okay, so when a person is sick or injured, they have a particular symptom profile, right? You have all these different types of symptoms. Sometimes injuries are a little bit easier, but when you have an illness, you have different things going on. You have fever, maybe you have sweating, maybe you have a left-sided headache, maybe you have palpitations, maybe you have tingling or numbness. So all of these things together create a symptom profile. So we look at mental symptoms, which are, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling confused, things like that. Emotional symptoms, I'm really irritable, I'm really angry, those types of things, and then all the physical symptoms. So when you put that together, you create this symptom profile, this symptom picture, and then what we do is we match that to remedies that, again, in high doses cause those symptoms to happen. So that's essentially how homeopathy works. So any of you that have worked with me before, you say, oh, my kid's sick, and I ask you 20 questions, right? So I'm asking all different kinds of things. What time of day is it happening? What are they feeling like? What is their mood like? Where are they sweating? If they're red in the face, is it both sides? Is it one side? So I ask a lot of different questions because the more symptoms you get, the more closely you can match it to that particular remedy. Let's see here. Okay, so again, when we're picking a remedy, that remedy, if you were to give it in very high doses of the original material, so for example, chamomile, if you were to give chamomile flower in very high doses, it would cause specific symptoms, okay? But again, if we give it in the microdose, we're gonna then cure those symptoms. Okay, so antidoting, you may have heard of before, and when I do work with you, I talk to you about this because there are fail-safes to antidote homeopathy. So it's a good thing in a way that there are those things in case a remedy is given and you're having kind of a reaction to it, well, you might be able to bring that reaction down. But it's also something to note when you're using homeopathy, because if you're taking something that's antidoting it, you're not going to know if it's working or not. So the things that antidote for sure are specific essential oils, really strong essential oils, especially your camphorated essential oils. So those are the ones like mint, eucalyptus, peppermint, camphor, menthol, anything that has that type of minty flavor to it. And that includes mint toothpaste also. So often when we're using homeopathy, I will tell you, don't use your mint toothpaste for a little while. Try, use something else. You can make something at home with like baking soda and coconut oil, or you can simply purchase a toothpaste that doesn't have mint. Since I use homeopathy all the time, I've completely gotten rid of mint for myself and my kids. So I use like a Tom's of Maine. It's like propolis and myrrh fennel flavor or something. And I've just replaced it because I don't want to ever antidote something I'm using as far as homeopathy. So we could also do something and you're feeling better and everything's going great. And then you go diffusing a eucalyptus or essential oils that are very strong. And then you start feeling sick again and you're wondering what's wrong. The remedy stopped working. Well, you probably antidoted it. So another thing that a lot of homeopaths will say antidotes is coffee. So coffee, especially strong coffee, can antidote. So again, when you're using it for an acute illness, it's just best you try and stay away from it if you can. Other things like radiation, if you have your kit and you're traveling like on an airplane, I always keep it in my purse and I take it out of my purse when it goes to the x-ray and I tell them just look at it, but do like a hand search, and I don't want it going through the x-ray machine because you don't want it getting radiated. Also very strong allopathic medicines like vaccines, steroids, other certain strong medications can antidote a remedy once it's working for you. Do we have any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so how are remedies made? Okay, so remedies are made with a process called of dilution and succussion. So what you do with both plant and animal remedies is they usually make a tincture first. So for example, if you've ever bought like echinacea tincture or chamomile tincture, lemon balm tincture, whatever it is, the way that they make that is they simply put the plant or the crushed animal part into alcohol and water that sits usually for a few weeks, and then you have your tincture, your mother tincture. So the way that a remedy is made is then that you'll see different potencies, right? So you'll see X potencies, you'll see C potencies, you'll see M potencies. So those are all different potencies, and so X means 10, C means 100, M means 1,000, and it goes up from there. So to give yourself a 1X potency, what you basically do is you're taking 1 part tincture and putting it in 9 parts water. So it's 1/10 of the solution is your tincture, right? So then it goes into a separate bottle and then that gets succussed 10 times. So 10 parts, 10 succussions. So this is succussion where you're actually hitting it like this. So you're hitting it 10 times. I've just now made a 1X. Okay, so to make a 2X, you're now taking 1/10 of this solution, putting it in 9 more parts of water, again, succussing it 10 times. So you can imagine what happens when you get up to 30X, 40X, how that has to happen. So these remedies are made in very special laboratories that have to adhere to these specific standards. So you can't just kind of make them at home on your own. They really have to be made in special laboratories. So to get a C potency, which if you have your kit, these are all C potencies, 30 C potencies for the most part. So to get a C potency, that's 100. So you basically are taking 1 drop or 1 part to 99 parts water. Then you're succussing that 100 times, and that's 1 C. Then you're taking 1 part of that to 99 parts water, succussing it again, that's 2 C. So imagine what you have to do to get up to a 30 C. So as you see, as you go up and up and up and up in your potencies, this gets more and more and more diluted. So you sit there and say to yourself, how can that even be effective? I mean, by the time you get above a 12 C, there is no more detectable molecules left of the original material. Okay? So think about that. No more detectable molecules left. So even we have remedies, things like arsenicum album, which is made of arsenic, which most people go, what? Oh my God, arsenic, you know, I don't want to go anywhere near that. When you get up in your higher potencies, there's no more of the molecules left. But what is left in homeopathy is an energy imprint. So it is very much an energetic medicine. So just like acupuncture and Chinese medicine, which has been around for thousands of years, it works on the energy of your body. There are different energy channels. Your body responds to energy. So essentially, when you're going up, you're not giving a chemical to your body that is causing a chemical reaction in the body. What essentially is happening is you're giving your body this, the way I describe it, it's like giving your body an instruction manual. Like, hey, you're having trouble figuring out how to heal yourself. So here's the symptom picture. Here's your instruction manual. Now go to it. And then your body starts moving and your body starts healing itself. So it's really exciting when you use homeopathy, especially with kids, because they respond so quickly to it that you know you have the right remedy when your child goes from like, oh, I'm, you know, just miserable and I'm, you know, fussy and I'm on the couch and my fever's go, you know, and I'm just so miserable. And then you give it and they're just like, oh, hi, mommy. Can I get something to eat? Hi, mommy. Oh, I feel better. I mean, it happens so quickly with children. It's really amazing. So you'll see right away, like the body has just figured out what to do. All right, so let's see here. I covered all that. So M potencies you won't be dealing with unless you work with a homeopath that's working on like a chronic condition. But those are, again, 1,000. So think about that, how much that takes to get up to like a 10M. All right. And the higher you go in potency, meaning the less of the actual material that is left, the stronger the medicine gets, which is completely counterintuitive to allopathic medicine, which is the more you give, the stronger you get, you know, the stronger the medicine. In homeopathy, the less medicine remaining, the stronger the potency. So you'll often get the most response from much higher potencies. All right, and then as far as how homeopathy is given, it's given in little sugar pellets. So you can get these bottles, like if you go to the natural food stores, you know, like there's the whole kiosk there with all the little tubes in it. So that's all homeopathic medicine. So they can come in little tiny sugar pellets, or they can come in like a liquid form that you just put into water or something like that. So there's a couple different ways you can get it. And when you do get your homeopathy, you want to make sure you're storing it in a cool, dark place. You don't want to have it like near the microwave, near like, you know, where you put all your iPads and phones and everything. You kind of want to keep it separate from that because it is pretty sensitive. You don't want it to, you know, react to that radiation. Also, don't put it in your same cupboard with like all your strong essential oils too, because that can also affect it. So something interesting, if I highlighted yellow here, I forgot to put it on the sheet, so just add this in. So homeopathy never expires. So as long as it's treated well and it's kept dark and you don't do something to kind of ruin it or antidote it, it will never expire. So, you know, they found Hahnemann's kits from 200 years ago, and they have it in a museum, and several people tried the remedies to see if they still had any potency left, and they were just as effective. So it really never does run out. Okay, do we have any questions so far? That's kind of the most complicated part. No? Okay. Okay, so how do you take homeopathic remedies? So there's what's called dry dosing. So that's simply take your bottle, you know, if you have the Boiron, you just kind of turn upside down and click it a couple times and pull the cap off, and there's a couple pellets in there. If you have these little kits, you just open it, you dump a couple pellets in the cap, and then you just shoot it in your mouth. Okay, you don't want to touch the cap to your mouth because you'll kind of change the medicine too. So it's just a quick dump in the mouth, and you just hold it under your tongue and let it dissolve. Okay, the other way to do it, which, you know, you and I work together, I may tell you to do water dosing. So a lot of you know about water dosing. So sometimes water dosing is used for higher potencies. There's less of a chance of like an aggravation in water dosing. Also, if like you're going to be taking it over the course of several days, you can put 2 pellets in water, and each sip is just as effective as taking 2 pellets. So when I'm treating like a whole family, for example, I may say just put it in water and then everybody take, a little sip. And that's how you kind of stretch the medicine out instead of giving everybody a dose every time. So you put your 2 pellets in, about 4 ounces of water. I like these little ones, or you can just get, spring water bottles and just dump half of it out. And just make sure you write on it with a marker what it is so people aren't just chugging it. And then what you're going to do is give it a couple of taps. That's against succussing it. You're going to pour some in the cap, and then the cap goes in the mouth, and that's a dose. So that's a water dose. So every time you take another sip, you're just going to hit this a couple times. So again, we're stimulating the medicine. Same thing with the bottles. I just give it a quick shake before I take it each time because it's just kind of stimulating that energy. So as far as acute conditions, that's why I had some of you get the 30C kits, because this is best for acute conditions. Let's see. People are going in and out here. 30C is best. So that'll work for most acute conditions. That's a good potency to use for a couple of days, maybe several times a day. If you're treating something kind of over the long term, sometimes like a lower potency every day is the best way to do that. And then if you work with like a homeopath for something chronic, they may give you a much higher potency, like a 200C, a 1M, or higher, and you're generally going to take 1 dose, and then they're going to wait a solid month or so and just let it work over time. So you'll start to notice within, a couple days, especially with the higher potencies, like something starts to change, and then over time, other things will start to change. So homeopathy, some people get turned away from it because for chronic conditions, it takes a while for the body to figure out how to heal itself. Whereas a lot of people are used to taking an allopathic medicine. Oh, I feel something right away. I took a anti-anxiety med, I feel relaxed right away. Homeopathy is different. It doesn't give you that jolt that other things give you, and it takes more time, but it actually stimulates your body to heal. So it's a process that takes longer based on how long you've had that particular condition. Now, in chronic conditions, you, especially with kids, you'll usually know within an hour if the remedy is starting to work. With adults, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but generally within about a half a day or so, you should start noticing some changes if you're on the right remedy. All right, any questions there so far? No, okay. Okay, so cell salts were another thing that I said we were going to talk about. So these were developed by a man named Wilhelm Schussler. I think he was a German man, in the mid-1800s. And so what he did is he analyzed a lot of different homeopathic remedies, and he also analyzed, they had like, bodies, people that had died, and they burned the bodies down. And what they did is took the ash and they analyzed the ash. And what they found is that all of these things were made up of 12 cellular salts. And so these are basically different minerals that make up the cells of our bodies, of plants, of animals, and minerals. And so he came up with these 12 cell salts. So if you ever go to the store in the natural food section, you'll see this. This is what the cell salts look like. Is that backwards for you? So this is like number 7, number 12. So there's 12 of them. So you can get 12 individual bodies of particular ones. Like this is kali salt. This is silica. Or the other way is to also do cell salts. So there's also something called bioplasma. And bioplasma is just a combination of all 12 cell salts. So that's something that's really good to have. I usually have that on hand, and I will just, several weeks out of the month, put them in my water, just kind of randomly take 4 or 5 of them. And what that does is just help build your body up. It's kind of like a homeopathic vitamin mineral supplement, and it really feeds your cells. So it's really good just to kind of build up your body. I put it in my kids' water. So that's just kind of a great sort of overall, sort of like nutrient cell builder that you can have on hand. So You can buy that in the store, but I have found that like finding it on Amazon, it's like half the price, and you can get, you know, 1,000 or more of them for like $10 or something. It's really cheap to find on Amazon. So it basically just works by correcting imbalances and feeding the cells. So these come in a much lower potency, like 3x, 6x, 12x. You can also buy what's called biochemic phosphate. So I have that right here. I think that's backwards for you guys, but I don't know. And so basically those are the phosphate cell salts, and those are really good for just like exhaustion. Like you just find you're drained, you just cannot get that energy tank back up again. It's a really good thing to have on hand, and to just be taking those just for like nervous exhaustion.
Can you hold that up again, please?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's called, and it's in the hold on, it's right here in the,
I printed it.
yeah, so it's right here too, biochemic phosphate.
Okay.
So that's just
Thank
really
you.
good to have on hand too. So the bioplasma has all 12, so it's really good to get all of them. But if you're specifically trying to target like exhaustion, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, biochemic phosphate, you can add that too at the same time. So with cell salts, you want to do water and dry. So I'll just take like 4 or 5, pop them in my mouth. I'll put 4 or 5 in my water glass and just drink that throughout the day. I'm always putting these in like my kids' water through the day, and they just taste kind of sugary. They taste really good, so it's really easy to get kids to take them. Any questions about those? There's a really great book. Hang on. If you really want to learn more about cell salts, this is I hate that it's all, why is it backwards? Anyway, it's called Homeopathic Cell Salt Remedies. And I wrote this down at the end of the paper, so you don't have to copy that down. But this is just a good book. It's really short, so it's kind of just an interesting read to read what the certain ones do. So you can find like a specific health condition in here, and then the cell salts that are associated with it. So you can try like taking those on a daily basis and see if the condition improves itself.
Elena, so I can see it the right way. It's not.
Oh.
backwards.
Yeah. I
Oh,
was gonna
okay,
say the
good.
same.
It's backwards for me, so I thought you were seeing it wrong. Okay.
No, we can see it.
Okay, so flower essences we're going to talk about. So this is another form of homeopathic remedies. So basically the way they make this is they take a bowl of water, they take a fresh flower, cut it and let it fall into the bowl of water, and then cover it and generally let it sit for 24 hours. So the essence of this living plant then gets permeated into the water, and they preserve it with alcohol. So these are flower essences. They are very gentle, but they are very, very effective. So, you know, even when I was studying homeopathy and using it, and I was convinced it worked, and then, you know, one of my homeopaths started saying, oh, you should try flower essences. I was like, flower essences? Like, is that really going to do anything? You know, it's flowers. It sounds so foo-foo-y. And then I started using them. I was like, oh my gosh, they are so powerful. So you can use them for anything from, I mean, anxiety. I mean, there's so many different flower essences that do different things. And I've tried using them individually for the different things. And I cannot believe how much better I feel when I'm using these. So we're going to talk more about some different conditions and the flower essences you can use for them. But, you know, you've seen them at the store, you know, your Bach flower essences. You know, the other, so they have them as individual ones. They also have combination remedies, like this is rescue remedy we're going to talk about. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's, you know, combinations. So basically what I do with flower essences is they go in my water almost every single day. And then like I have a jug, you know, some of you have like a water jug you use at home, and I put a bunch of drops in there just for my family, like ones that are for joy, ones that are for, you know, facing fears and protecting yourself from all the craziness that's going on. You know, with my kids, when they're working and they're having trouble focus, I use a combination blend for them. And it is unreal. You know, I had my first experience with it was when my son was getting these reports home that he was not focusing in school. He was just like daydreaming. You know, she's like, I just can't get him to stay focused. So I started putting clematis and what's the other one I put in there? Clematis and hornbeam in his water. And the teacher, after a few weeks, I said, so how's it been going? You know, have you noticed any change? She's like, I don't see that issue at all anymore. He's so focused, he's paying attention, and he doesn't know what's going in there. I'm just putting it in his water bottle. So I find the ones that are right for me, you know, they're ones for joy, for optimism, for, you know, letting go of the past, for focusing, for procrastination. So I put them in my, you know, several drops in my water, and you just drink your water throughout the day. So you put flower essences, some of the bioplasma in your water, and you've got this like supercharged glass of water that you're drinking every day that is just so good, and it's really nourishing that energetic level of your body. So Bach flower essences are the most popular. There are other companies out there, but you know, the easiest ones to find are Bach, and they're the most well known. Okay, any questions there?
I have a question.
Yes.
What kind of water do you drink?
Okay, so I have RO, so I do an RO filter in my house. So I have like a specific filter that filters out all the junk or whatever. But the problem with RO is it takes all the minerals out of your water. So I also have my little bottle. It's trace minerals. It's a blue cobalt colored bottle. And every time I get a glass of water, I'm dumping several
Here.
squirts. Yes, right there. Yep.
Can she
Perfect.
see it? Okay.
So I dump that in my water, because if you don't put the minerals back in, you end up dehydrating yourself from the RO water. So you have to put the minerals back in.
But
So
do
I
not
wanna
overdo.
What's that? You do
Don't
good.
overdo. You can give yourself a UTI or something.
Yeah, don't go crazy. Do what the dosage says, but you know, better to have a little bit more than too few minerals. So what I do is I just like fill up my big jug, you know, with the RO water. I put the right amount of minerals in, some flower essences, and then everybody just drinks from that every day.
But what if you don't have RO water? What would you recommend instead of RO water?
Spring water, a decent spring water will have minerals in it. Some
Okay.
people are drinking distilled water. I haven't looked into that very much. That's supposed to be good because it takes the chemicals out, but it also has no minerals. So you'd have to put the minerals back in. But if you can find a decent spring water is good because it has minerals and it's more of an alive water.
Okay.
Instead of like dead water, which is what a lot of the other purified ones are. Okay, so as far as homeopathy, there's acute care and there's chronic care. Okay, so acute care is your short-term illness or injury, your infectious diseases, your lacerations, sports injuries, things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I help with. You know, that's what I'm trained to do, is that acute care stuff. And then there's the chronic, which is more of like long-term pervasive things like diabetes, other autoimmune disorders, chronic pervasive anxiety, migraines, ulcers, painful menstrual periods, things like that. So if any of you ever were interested in doing chronic care, I've got a great homeopath that she's been my homeopath for years, and she's fantastic. So if you ever like, you know what, I've got a chronic condition, I really want to get treated for this, you know, let me know and I'll give you her information because she's fantastic. So my whole family has used homeopathy for chronic conditions as well. I had something that was going on for many years that looked like an autoimmune disorder, but no one could quite figure out what it was. And after, you know, about a year of being treated with homeopathy, the majority of the symptoms have disappeared. So it can treat a lot of different conditions. And I have much more faith in homeopathy for a lot of chronic conditions than any other type of medicine. And when I say that, I don't say that lightly. I've studied every type of medicine. I haven't studied acupuncture because you need formal, but I studied some Chinese medicine, herbalism, you know, naturopathic medicine. I mean, so many different kinds, trying to find what was right. And I keep on coming back to homeopathy. I've never seen things cured the way that homeopathy cures them. So it's great. All the other stuff is really good as an adjunct, and it's important too. And I'll often recommend herbs and nutritional supplements too, but I'm telling you, nothing works like homeopathy. So welcome, ladies. All right, so how do you choose a remedy? So I talked about that a little bit before, about how you get a symptom picture. So again, what'll happen is, you know, I'll have my friends text me and say, oh, my son is sick. He has a sinus infection. So homeopathy doesn't work where you're like, oh, sinus infection, here's the remedy for that, for a sinus infection. It's not like that. So For sinus infections, there could be 50 remedies that could match a sinus infection. So it is very much individualized for each person. So when you're thinking about that, you have to get the whole picture. So you have to look at all the physical symptoms. Is there a fever? Is there flushing in the skin? Are the ears red? Are they sweating? Where are they sweating? Is it the back of the neck? Is it the forehead? Are they nauseous after eating, before eating? You know, if there's diarrhea, what is the color? What is the texture, the odor? All those symptoms are very important. So getting the most important, most comprehensive profile is the best way to lead you to the correct remedy. So you look at mental symptoms. Now, mental symptoms are actually the most important symptom that we look at, because your mental symptom is often a huge indicator of what's going on in your body. So it's very important to match a remedy with the mental symptoms as well. So things like, oh, they're very anxious, they have a fear of death, the child's inconsolable. An interesting one that's a keynote for chamomilla is a child who asks for something and then refuses it when you give it to them. So you ever have that with your child where they say, you know, I don't want a cookie, and then you hand them a cookie, I don't want the cookie. So that's one of the keynotes for chamomilla. So those things are very important to tell the homeopath or to look at when you're looking at symptoms. Are they afraid of dark? Are they hypersensitive to noise, to lights, to odors? Time of day. So I worked with Wendy's mom not too long ago, and she had a fever just in the morning after she woke up, and then the rest of the day the fever would get better. That's very important. That's what led us to the right remedy, is a remedy that the time of day the aggravation was like 9 to 11 a.m. So remedies have specific aggravations where the symptoms seem to get worse at certain times of day. So that's an important thing to know. The child wakes from midnight to 2 a.m. with nightmares every night. That's an important time aggravation. You also want to look at things that make it worse and make it better. So are warm drinks or cold drinks better? Are they better in fresh air or warm, stuffy rooms? Do acidic foods bother them more? What makes them better? Do they like to uncover with the blanket, or they need to be bundled up with the blanket? Do they like being held or don't want to be touched? So those are all very important symptoms to think about. All right, any questions there before we start getting to some actual treatments for different conditions? No, all good? All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about just a handful of conditions tonight. These are some of the things that everybody voted that they wanted to hear about. So we're going to start with anxiety. Now, of course, anxiety can be a very chronic condition in a lot of people. So we're more talking about those sort of acute periods of anxiety. If you find you're having like really chronic anxiety that's going on for a long time, it's really best to consult a chronic care homeopath for that, because they can treat you, because there's a lot of other root causes that are causing that particular anxiety. So as far as acute anxiety, one of the best things you can do on a daily basis is your rescue remedy. Okay, you can find this at the store. They have spray bottles, or they have just the drops. I have two. I have one by my bed at night, and I spray this in my water glass that I have at night, because I'm the one that wakes up in the middle of the night and has really anxious thoughts and has trouble getting back to sleep. So if I take several sips of my water and I swish it around, I find I go back to sleep very easily. So this is something too, you can just keep spraying in your water throughout the day, 4 or so squirts in your water bottle, and make sure you're just drinking this throughout the day. And these are flower essences. So that's a really good thing that you can do every day for anxiety that's very gentle for you. Another thing, like we talked about, the biochemic phosphates, that's another good thing, especially for nervous exhaustion. And just when you've just been burning out, burning yourself out, and you just feel exhausted and you're kind of like on edge because your nerves are so shot, biochemic phosphates. So again, putting them in your water or taking them orally is a really good thing. All right, we have Moe joining us. Hi, Moe. She's probably muted. I don't know if I see everybody in here. Where's everybody? Okay. Also kind of kind of intuitive, but reducing caffeine intake, obviously. Coffee is a huge anxiety producing drink, chemical, whatever you want to call it. For a lot of people who have consistent anxiety, cutting out coffee sometimes is a really good step to trying to reduce your anxiety. I'm just a person who has pretty chronic anxiety. I can't drink coffee at all. And I've actually learned that I was kind of allergic to the herb itself. But if I have even a third of a cup of coffee, I start feeling really anxious. So again, if you're in kind of like an acute stage of anxiety, just consider cutting out caffeine if you can. So lavender essential, I know a lot of us have used it, but it really is one of the best essential oils for relaxation and anxiety. A good way to do it is just put a couple drops on your wrist, which is a pulse point here, and you could put it on your head. I like to put it on my heart so that I'm kind of smelling it. Another thing you can do is to put it on your wrist and then close your eyes and breathe very deep and slow. And I'm talking, 7-second inhalation, 7-second exhalation, and do that for 2 to 3 full minutes. And if you can just find the time to go and sit quietly and do that, what happens is there's something called the vagus nerve, and your vagus nerve basically regulates your heart rate and your breathing. Okay, and so your heart rate cannot go up without your breathing going up. Your heart rate, if you're breathing, your heart rate cannot go down unless your breathing is going down. So we can't control our heart rate. We can't say, okay, heart, stop beating, slow down. We can't do that. But what we can affect is our breathing. So when we're in a state of anxiety, our heart rate is going up, we're breathing a little bit heavier, we're just having some trouble, we're not getting good oxygen. So the way that we bring both those down is by very slow, deep breathing. And as you bring your breathing down, your heart rate will start coming down also. And as your heart rate comes down, that physical sensation of anxiety starts to reduce too. So there's a lot of power in just taking a few minutes, especially with a nice essential oil, to sit there and breathe very slow in the nose, out the mouth for several minutes. And sometimes that can really calm an anxiety attack if you do it a couple times a day. All right, so as far as some homeopathic remedies, there's tons and tons for anxiety, but I'm just going to go over kind of the top several. So aconite napellus. Now, if you have a kit, go ahead and take it out. So for those of you that don't, we're just talking about, there's like 50 remedy kits that we have. If you're interested, let me know later and I can show you where to get them. But so basically take out your aconite. So it's called Aconitum napellus, or aconite for short. All right, and that's monkshood, it's a plant. And so this is for really sudden, intense panic. So something has happened where you've had a real big fright or a shock. So it could even be something like bad news, like, you watch the news and something shocking has happened that really affects you. Sometimes aconite is the right remedy for that. So you kind of feel this panic, you're feeling palpitations, maybe you're hyperventilating, tingling and numbness, a tragedy that might have happened in your life, or maybe you just got in a small car accident, something that jolts you. They tend to be worse in the evening and better with open air. So aconite can be a good remedy for that more intense anxiety and shock. So another good one is our Argentum nitrate, silver nitrate. So if you want to go ahead and take that one out too. So Argentum nitrate. Okay, so this is one where you have a fear of being late, a fear of heights, you're afraid of dying, you're afraid of home invaders. So like you're in bed at night and you're like, who's that? And you just have this intense fear that someone's gonna break into your home and harm you and harm your children or something. And it's kind of this like overwhelming fear. For this remedy, people feel nervous, they feel hurried, impulsive, obsessive. Often this can be anticipation anxiety. So something's coming up in the future, you're kind of dreading it. You're dreading a test, you're dreading meeting, with the in-laws, you're dreading
A bad bill.
a bad bill, exactly. Oh yeah. You have something coming up that you're just really not looking forward to and you're getting anxious about it. Generally, people with this remedy want company, they're kind of too talkative, and you tend to get a lot of bloating and belching with this remedy. So this is a remedy I use a lot. And I find at night where I'm just like, oh, I'm feeling so anxious and I'm just worried about the world and everything. Just all these sort of toxic worries. And I start just burping and belching, and it's this really loud, forceful belching. And as soon as I start feeling that, I start going, you know what, I think that's argentum nitrate. So think about that. That's really kind of a keynote for this remedy. Sometimes when you get so nervous, you start to have diarrhea, right? That's all happened to us before. This is another good remedy when you get to that stage where you're that nervous or anxious. All right, so another one is Arsenicum album, which is made from white arsenic. So this is one of the most important homeopathic remedies we have. So again, think of like arsenic, like you've been poisoned. So I sometimes talk about this one when you just feel like you're living in a toxic world. You know, right now, this is like a remedy a lot of people need because you feel like everything around you is toxic. The news is toxic. The people are toxic. Like you're just feeling this overwhelming, like, negativism towards you, you know what I mean, and the world itself. And so when you feel that, like almost like you've been poisoned by something, you know, your brain's been poisoned, arsenicum can be a really good remedy. So people have like a fear of death. They're very afraid of their health, like, oh my God, I have cancer, I'm going to die of cancer, something's going to happen. Fear about your family, fear of being poisoned, very nervous, and arsenicum, you're very restless too. So you can't just lay down and relax. You're moving around, you're getting up, your legs going, you're just constantly moving. Arsenicum people tend to be also very chilly at the same time. So you notice you're kind of chilly and sort of trembling and just shaking, and you just feel, you just feel shot, you know. You also feel very paranoid, very mistrusting of other people. You feel very lonely and threatened. You might be obsessively cleaning and ordering things. It's worse when you're alone, and there tends to be a time aggravation of 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if you're that person that wakes from 12 to 2 every night and you're having these feelings, this might be a good remedy for you. Okay, so another one, Coffea cruda, which is coffee bean. And so that is, think about when you've had too much coffee, what those symptoms feel like. So that's like a very overactive mind, I'm spinning, things are moving, like I'm laying down and I'm literally having 500 thoughts in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And you're just like, shut up, shut my mind off, and you can't shut it off. So very nervous, very restless, very sensitive to pain, to touch, to noise. Everything's just and bothering you. Tend to be anxious before or after midnight, and generally this is when you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you just cannot fall asleep because you've got these crazy thoughts going in your mind. That's a really good one for that. But also your rescue remedy for those pervasive thoughts, what it has in it is, I think it's red chestnut. If you're that person that has a lot of thoughts like that where you can't shut them off, it's like pervasive, obsessive thoughts, red chestnut is a really good one. It gives peace of mind. So if you find that that's really a big issue for you, you can put this in your water at night. Okay. And then gelsemium is another amazing anxiety remedy. It's yellow jasmine. And so this again is anticipation anxiety, fear of losing control of things, fear of public speaking. This is a really good one to take before you have to be in public. Fear of a new situation. You just want to be alone. You feel just very dull, very drowsy, almost kind of dizzy. You know, you're feeling, when did we use this for you, didn't we? Do you mind if we talk about that? Yeah. So she was, you know, again, she had a very big thing coming up on Friday. It was a huge public speaking type event. And it was just a lot of anxiety around it. And she was just like having trouble thinking and feeling almost like she was getting vertigo, right? Wendy, you were getting kind of vertigo. And just like my brain is not working and I need it to be working. I have so much to do right now. And she took gelsemium and she was like, man, I feel so much better. So gelsemium is a really good one to have in your arsenal. All right, any questions on anxiety?
I have a question.
Yes.
What if you like don't take the right, I mean, can you take all of them just to cover everything? Or how do you, what if you're not, taking the right one?
So, you know, so for classical homeopathy, which is what 90% of homeopaths practice, you want to choose the right remedy and stick with that for a while and see if it works. So basically you should take it, you know, give it an hour. If you're not feeling anything, take another dose, maybe give it another hour. If you're really not feeling any change at all, it might not be the right remedy. So then you might want to go to your number 2, right? So that's when it's best to really get that really clear symptom profile and write all that down, because you'll match it to it doesn't have to have everything that you see written about the remedy, but you want to have as much as possible. So if you take there also are clinical, like I study clinical homeopathy too, and we do some combination remedies, but you don't want to go too crazy with those. You don't want 5 30Cs in a thing taking that, because it can just it can confuse what we call the vital force and just make it so that you don't really know what's working. So sometimes it's okay to do like 2. If you're like really stuck between 2 and you just want to feel better, you can do that. But I always say start with 1, because you want to find that one that works for you, because you may have this problem reoccur and then you're like, boom, I know that's gelsemium every time, you know, or I'm burping and I'm feeling this way, I know that's ardenium nitrate. So if you're really having trouble, again, just contact, you know, me or somebody else and we can try and help you find the right remedy. But you don't want to take like a bunch at one time. But there are some combination remedies that use like lower potencies and some are higher ones, and so they definitely have those out there, and those are pretty successful too.
Yeah, because it seems like some of those might overlap where someone's feeling like, you know, multiple things. Like I have felt some of those in one category, and then I felt, you know, in another category, like another one of those, I've been like, oh, I feel that too. So
yeah,
that's why. No,
that's why it takes trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error with homeopathy. So you want to get as close as you can. You don't have to have every single symptom, but definitely the mental symptoms are a very important part of the picture. Time aggravation is another thing that can help you narrow it down. And also anything that sounds peculiar. So like when you read in your book, so I'll bring this out, let's see. So I have all the resources at the bottom, but this is another book. If you're going to even attempt to use homeopathy, you have to get this book. Before I started formally studying, I used this book like it was my Bible, I swear. And it helped me through so many different types of acute illnesses. And you basically go in, so you find, you know, anxiety, right? So anxiety, and then it gives you the top, you know, 5 or 6 or whatever. So you start reading through all the symptom profiles. And at first you'll go, oh, that one matches. Wait, that one matches too. But you'll find one that like fits best, and you try that one first. And you kind of have your second, you know, tier and your third tier. And so sometimes it takes just trial and error of going through to find that right remedy. So you'll see too, like, you know, if I've ever worked with you, sometimes I get it on the right one, but oftentimes it's the second or third that actually does the cure, because it sometimes takes a little while. You'll see it's kind of complicated. But if you're really like in it, you know, you're like, oh, I cannot decide between these 2, it's not the end of the world to put 2 30Cs together and try that and see if it works. So,
but you can try, but you can do the flower essences alongside,
yes.
and then the other 2 that you mentioned, the bioplasma and the biochemic, you can do those with
the cell salts and the flower essences can all be taken together. You can do up to like 5 or 6 flower essences. They're not going to hurt you, but after like 6 or 7, you're kind of like convoluting them, you know what I mean? So you want them to be working. So you can take a bunch of those, yeah.
But you can take them with the pellets too,
Mm-hmm.
is what I mean. Okay.
I put them all in 1 glass of water, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so insomnia. So obviously if it's persistent, again, that's kind of my disclaimer. You would, you know, contact a chronic care homeopath. Another thing to also consider is, you know, you can go to a homeopath for chronic care, and usually it's around $175, and it's like a 2-hour visit, and then they follow you for like a solid month. So it's so worth the money, but I know that's sometimes hard for people to pay out of pocket. So another good thing to do is you can either find a local school, because they often have student clinics that will see you for like $90. And like in Arizona, my college that I go to is called the American Medical College of Homeopathy, and they have a student clinic, and they can do Skype visits. And I think it's like $90 for the initial and like $45 for the follow-up. So they have a student, like 5 students oversee your case, and then a certified homeopath that is there mentoring them. So you're getting 6 brains together looking at your case and coming up with a remedy for you. So that's sometimes a really good way to get in and get treatment. Insomnia, again, also a lot with anxiety, use the rescue remedy, the biochemic phosphates we already talked about. Reducing lights in the house. So a lot of people are aware of this, but you know, lights block melatonin production. Okay, and we need melatonin. When the lights start to go down, as the sun goes down, it triggers melatonin production in the brain. And if you have every light on in the house, you're watching TV, you're on your computer, you're looking at your phone, you're not allowing your body to produce melatonin. So I start a couple hours before bed, I start turning lights down. I put on the softer lights, I turn off the big ones. And if you really find you're having trouble going to sleep, you might really consider shutting that TV off and trying to read before bed, because that'll really help your brain just start to slow down and stop with it. And especially the phones, that blue light this close to your eyes, I mean, it's no wonder all of us have insomnia. You know, we're constantly doing this, and it's just not allowing our brains to trigger that melatonin production. So melatonin, a lot of you probably use. I'm probably not giving you any new information, but it's very, very helpful. We do need it to sleep. As we get older, we stop producing as much melatonin. I really like time release melatonin. I just happen to like this brand. I've used them for years. So the time release is nice because sometimes regular melatonin gets you to sleep, but then you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're wide awake again. So this kind of keeps releasing a little bit. I would start with maybe 3 milligrams, see how you feel in the morning. Give yourself several days to not feel groggy in the morning, and you can go up to like 5 milligrams if you want to. But 3 usually does the trick for the most part. Another thing to take before bed is magnesium. So magnesium is a critical mineral that we all need to be taking. I could go into a million reasons. I've studied this a lot. We wrote a 150-page paper on different nutrients, and magnesium was one of them that we really looked at a lot. We need it for like 500.
Elena,
yeah?
Sorry to bother. Somebody in the chat is saying they can't get on.
What's that?
Someone in the chat is saying that they can't get on. Sorry to interrupt.
I know, you know, it doesn't pop up for me. Hang on, let me take a look.
Yeah, that's why I thought I'd let you know.
Sorry.
And also, just to throw in there for the blue light, I have some just safety glasses from like the shooting aisle in Walmart that I wear at bedtime. Just
that's good.
You might want to tell people that too.
That's good, to like a blue light blocking glass. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
See, these glasses I have are supposed to block blue lights. I don't know. I've never, you know, done my own research study.
Gotcha.
Is that Moe that's trying? I don't see a.
Yeah, it's Moe. It's Moe.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
I turn the blue light off on my phone.
Yes, if you can do the blue light, there's certain apps that can one of them is called Blue Light Block, something like that. You know, those are really good apps to have on your phone that blocks that light. It turns it a little bit more yellow, but let's see. Well, you don't know how to get you in. It shows that she's in there. Invite. I don't know. It's frustrating because it doesn't pop up and alert me when someone's trying to come in. Hang on. Sorry, guys. I wish it would, like, I have to like accept people to come in. I wish it would just let them come in. So I don't know. Another way. Okay, hopefully she'll pop back in. If you guys see her popping in or something, just let me know. Maybe I'll just do this. Put it to the side so I can see. Okay. So, okay, so magnesium before bed. So 300 to 500 milligrams. If you start to get really loose stool, you can kind of scale back on that a little bit. There's so many ways to take magnesium. You can do Epsom salt baths. You can do capsules. You can do, I like this for my kids, magnesium citrate. It's like a, you know, powder. You mix it with a little warm water and then cold water, and it makes just a nice flavored drink. So they drink that before bed. If you can't get kids to drink that, I even found this. It's magnesium lotion. If they're okay with a little lotion rub, this stuff smells like marshmallow vanilla cupcake. It's the most delicious smell ever. So no kid is going to complain about you putting this on them unless they have like a sensory issue. But and it even tells you like a certain amount has a certain amount of magnesium in it. So you just do a nice little rub on their bodies with this if you want to get it in. I also found this one, which I really like. You can see that. Eden or something, ionic minerals. So I just take a drop of this and throw it in my water. And looks like lower dose, but it's ionic, so you don't need as high of a dose. I haven't found that I taste it. So I do it a couple times a day in my water. I don't think it's bad. Maybe for the kids, do like half a dropper and see how they do with it. I wouldn't put it in your mouth, then you can really taste it. It's funky, but I found it's fine in water. Okay. And then, okay, so again, lavender essential oil or hydrosol, we talked about that. That's really great to spray on the pillowcase.
Elena, will you take pictures of those later? Because I can't see the.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I
I'll
was just
I'll post them of all these, and I'll post them in the Facebook
chat.
page. Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so another favorite, I've tried a lot of things over the years because I found melatonin's great, but I have it again an anxious brain, so I'm waking up in the middle of the night and having these crazy pants thoughts. So I've tried a lot of different herbal supplements, and I found this one to be the best. So my combo at night, especially during these crazy times where it's so hard to sleep, is I've got my rescue remedy in my water, I take my melatonin, and I take one of these Relaxols. And it's amazing stuff. It's hard to read, it's so tiny, it's ridiculous, but it has tryptophan, it has GABA, which is really good for anxiety too. It has valerian root, inositol, ashwagandha, chamomile, lemon balm, just so many great relaxing anti-anxiety herbs. Man, when I do melatonin in this, I just don't have any issues. I don't get up and have those crazy thoughts. I have much more restful sleep. So sometimes I think with us as we get older and life is getting crazier and crazier and more stressful, we need that little extra boost. So I think the melatonin in a nice herbal capsule sometimes is just really does the trick. Okay. So as far as anti-anxiety remedies, so Ignatia Amara is a great remedy. This is your grief remedy. So this is when you are just stricken with grief, you've gotten bad news, somebody's gotten really sick, someone's passed away, someone's gotten hurt, you maybe are having really a hard time with your relationship, humiliation. Sometimes, you know, we get into these heated Facebook, Twitter battles with people, and, you know, it really kind of affects us and we feel very like embarrassed, or it just like, you just all of a sudden feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible about this. Ignatia's a really good remedy for that. So that's a great one. And a sign of Ignatia is someone who is yawning and sighing a lot. So you're just like, you just find yourself doing that all day and you're just like yawning all day long. That's a keynote for Ignatia. So if you're feeling those things and you have the sighing and the yawning, that's another keynote. Mood swings, lots of mood swings, really bad nightmares, you're just a light, restless sleeper, that all might point to Ignatia. Nux vomica is another good one. Oh, and I also mentioned up here, see all the anxiety remedies too. A lot of those can work for insomnia. A lot of times we have it because of anxiety, obviously. Nux vomica, which is poison nut. It's also another remedy that once you start using homeopathy, you're going to use this one a lot. Also really great for stomach flus, vomiting, different types of things like that. But it's great for if you've used too much tobacco, alcohol. So a great hangover prevention and remedy is to take, I know I'm going out with my girls and I'm going to have a bunch of margaritas, and I have no business having a bunch of margaritas at my age because I'm going to have a hangover. So you take it before you go out. You take another dose before you go to bed, and you might just completely stop the hangover in its tracks. If you wake up in the morning with a hangover, headache, nausea, boom, right to the Nux vomica. That is the #1 hangover remedy. So also sometimes you don't feel good because you ate really like rich food, like you just went crazy and you've been having donuts and pizza and just garbage food. for several days, you know, lots of dairy, and you feel like crap, Nux vomica can often help with that. A lot of anger, a lot of irritability with Nux vomica. So sometimes when people like drink for several days after, they get really irritable and just like snappy and like, oh, stop, you're too loud, and everything's bothering them, and they're just like, on edge. That points to Nux vomica. Again, waking at 3 to 4 a.m., tired, weak, irritable, sensitive to different sensory things. Okay, any questions about anxiety or what was that, insomnia? Nope, okay. I'm gonna close this for now. Okay, so as far as exhaustion, again, we talked about bioplasma, biochemic phosphates, those cell salts. Kali-phos is a specific cell salt that is really good for nervous exhaustion. So sometimes it's nice to do the combination cell salts, other times you want to do targeted ones. So again, if you're taking 4 of bioplasma, it's got 12 cell salts, so that 4 is divided by kind of 12. You might need more of like the Kali-phos. So then you're taking also, in addition to that, the Kali-phos to kind of target what you're trying to do. Flower essence blend. So this is my favorite blend for exhausted moms who look at the dishes and feel like it's an insurmountable task, who feel like, oh my God, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I cannot believe I have to start making dinner right now. I just could not be more exhausted. I can't believe I have to put the kids to bed. Like you've just had it, and you don't have any more energy in your tank, and you don't want to do your chores, and you just want to curl up in a ball and cry for your mama. This is the best flower essence blend for that. So it is olive, which gives you energy. It's hornbeam, which is great for procrastination. Again, when you don't feel like you cannot do those chores, you can't get your work started. And then it's clematis, okay, for focus and concentration. So if you put that blend together in your water and you start drinking that every day, you're gonna see a huge change. I can't tell you how many times I've had that just dragging feeling, and I said, forget, and you know what, I'm gonna put some olive and hornbeam in, and I drank it, and then within like 10 minutes, all of a sudden like, it's not that bad, I can do the dishes. Dinner doesn't look so horrific to me right now, you know? So you'll be amazed how much the flower essences can just help in your day-to-day life. Obviously, a good vitamin mineral blend if you're exhausted. I recommend something with trace minerals in it, which is, you know, there's some great new ones out there. And I've got one I like that I've been using now. That's a nice one. So I'll post a picture of that one too on the Facebook page. Okay, so remedies. So sepia is ink of the cuttlefish. It's like, how did they figure this stuff out? I still get amazed this day. You know, I was studying a remedy the other day, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's corn fungus. Like, who figured out to try and test corn fungus and figured out that it cures a bunch of symptoms? I don't know. But sepia is ink of the cuttlefish. So this is especially good for women when you are just overworked, overstressed, you're physically exhausted, you're taking care of everyone, you're just like irritable, you want to be alone, you are so worn out, you're overwhelmed, depressed, you just feel like, oh, this is just never going to get better. You kind of start to feel almost a little bit like indifferent toward loved ones, like you're just not in this lovey, affectionate mood. You're just like, ugh, I'm so tired of you people. You know? You tend to start snapping at loved ones. You know, you're just like, every time your husband comes home, you know, you're doing that thing. And you want to lash out at people. So especially when you just feel that like, I am going to go crazy on you, you need to go away for your own safety, like that's sepia. So, this is a really good one for a lot of mothers who are feeling that worn out exhaustion, okay? You tend to feel very mentally dull, sluggish, your brain's just not working, your memory's poor. Sometimes something as simple as like a little walk around the block makes you feel better. You feel worse if you have really tight clothing on, so you're in yoga pants all day long. Yeah, I'm talking to you. And like, especially that couple hours before dinner, you're just like, oh God, just like, I've just had it, you know, pizza for everyone, you know, that's your sepia. Especially if you're really, really irritable during your period, that can also be sepia too, but there's a lot of remedies for that also. Another one, K-Life-Phos, you know, the cell salts come in the cell salts, which are the lower potencies, like your 6X, but then you also have them all in higher potencies. So even taking the K-Life-Phos in like a 30C is another thing to try, along with the 6X, which you can do at the same time. Sometimes that higher potency is what you need to give yourself that. So again, K-Life-Phos is your nervous exhaustion, you're sensitive, weak, very easily fatigued from overwork, worry, illness. You just feel weak. Sometimes you almost feel like you get this low-grade fever, but nothing ever comes of it, and you get that periodically. That's usually K-Life-Phos. You can be a lot more chilly than usual, irritable. You have a lot of outbursts, things like that. So Cocculus is a really good one if you've been nursing people. So like you have a sick relative, a sick child, you've been taking care of somebody that's just chronically ill, you're losing a lot of sleep over it. With Cocculus, you tend to get vertigo. It's a really good motion sickness remedy too. So like my son gets motion sickness. We use Cocculus. We don't have to use Dramamine with him. So it's really good to put it in a water bottle. Have your kid take sips periodically when they're in the car if they get motion sick. So with Cocculus, you tend to have like, you know, just like some vertigo, you're just not feeling right, you feel kind of dizzy, you're focusing too much on the past and you can't let go. That's your Cocculus. And then other good ones for exhaustion are arsenicum and gelsemium. So you can kind of look at those up, or the descriptions for those. And then if you're exhausted because you've been like on vacation and you're partying and you're drinking and you know whatever, Nux Vomica is a good one to try out for that. You'll often find you just have a headache and you just feel like, oh, I just feel terrible and everything's annoying you. That's sometimes your Nux Vomica. Any questions there? See, I wish Moe could get on because the next one was for her.
I see that you're recording it though.
Yeah, I'm recording it, so I'll make sure she can get it.
Cool. Are you going to post it on the Facebook group or?
No, you know what? We have to be so sensitive nowadays about what other people can see. So, you know, people can take that link and show it to someone else. I mean, they're shutting down homeopaths left and right who are talking about, we're going to talk about respiratory illness in a minute, and that's a big reason too why I don't want this getting out there. So I'll send it to people individually that are in the group.
Okay, yeah, if you could send it to me because I've been interrupted probably.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. And then Kelly she lost connection. So
I'll send it to everyone in the group. Yeah, I just don't want it being sent out to other people outside the group. That's why I'm very selective about who's in the group right now, because I want to be able to talk about things with you that are important, but and they're going after homeopaths, I'm telling you, that are talking about, you know, different things. So okay, so muscle soreness, stiffness, which we all experience a lot. Magnesium is really good orally for muscle relaxation. If you just find at the end of a hard, you know, day, if you did exercise or gardening and you're just sore, it's really good to take before bed. Obviously, most of you know about Epsom salt baths. Those are a really good way to get magnesium right into the cells of the muscle. MagPhos, magnesium phosphate cell salt, is another really good one to have on hand as like an individual cell salt. Whenever you have like that really stiff sore back, just sore muscles in general, that sometimes works by itself. You know, sometimes I had a client about a year ago who just had this like constant sore back, stiff, like it was just from over exercising, and nothing made it go away. Chiropractors, massage, nothing. MagPhos for like 2 days and it went away. So that's a really good one to have on hand too. As far as remedies, Arnica montana, by far, hands down, is the #1 most used homeopathic remedy. It's oftentimes what brings people to homeopathy because they use it. It relieves the soreness and they're amazed. So if you just, you know, went back to the gym for the first time in 3 months and did a workout, if you just joined boot camp, if you just did something where you're like, I'm going to be in pain tomorrow, Arnica, you know, so you just start taking Arnica. take a couple doses that day. And then if you start feeling the soreness, you can take like 2 or 3 doses, that day. And you'll often find after, a day or so, it dramatically reduces that muscle impact. So it really helps to dilate the blood vessels, and it helps to bring more oxygen to the muscles, and it also reduces the lactic acid buildup. So if you get on that right away after you've exercised, it'll really help reduce the soreness. If you're really sore and you take it multiple times, it'll help reduce it too. It's really good for swelling, inflammation, any type of trauma. You fall down the stairs, arnica. Your kid bangs their head and they've got a goose egg, arnica. You get in a car accident, arnica. So any type of real soft tissue injury, anyone that's got like a really nasty bruise or something, arnica is really good for that. You can take it orally, but then they also make like an arnica cream. So I put this on my kid's bump on his head, you can rub it on a sore muscle, on a bruise. So it's good to have both of them topically and then do it orally. And you can find these all this stuff you can buy at Sprouts, all the flower essences, the homeopathic remedies, you can all buy it at Sprouts. All right, Bellis is another one. Like if you find it's like a serious deep injury, deep tissue, you've had surgery, you've just given birth, your friends or whoever's had a C-section, really nasty deep tissue injury, a car accident, something like that. Start with arnica. If you find it's just not working anymore, Bellis is a good one to go to. That's common daisy. So that's kind of for your more deeper, and especially if you've got some abdominal things, like if someone who's having like a hysterectomy or some type of abdominal surgery, a tummy tuck, Bellis is a really good one for that too. And you can kind of alternate arnica and Bellis, and they'll do slightly different things. All right, any questions on muscle soreness, stiffness? Okay. So knee or joint stiffness. So again, see what we just talked about for muscle soreness, stiffness. A really good knee regimen, if you've got a chronic knee condition, when it's tight, it's lame, it's stiff, you just keep on injuring it. It just gets worse when you start moving it. A really good combo is Ruta graveolens, which is garden rue. Taking that in a 6C potency, which again, you can find at just Sprouts. AM and PM for a month, along with these cell salts, calc fluor, silicea, calc phos. So this is a combination I got from a homeopath. It's actually in this book. This book, again, this is an amazing book. Once you get this, it's just like, anytime you got something, you just open up to this and you can find the right remedy most of the time. All right, so that's a really good one. And then after a month, you increase the Ruta to 12C for several weeks. And then you can, if it's still persisting, you can go to 30C. So I had 2 different friends. One of them was a former college football athlete who, after years of injuring himself, had just a horrible knee, couldn't run anymore. He was so depressed because he couldn't exercise. It just, no matter what they did, it hurt. They told him, you're going to have surgery. And with the surgery, you're still probably not going to get good function. So I said, why don't we try Ruta? Because Ruta is really good for like when you first start moving and it just hurts right away. And it's just like, that kind of stiffness. It's really good for joint pain and inflammation. I said, let's try Ruta. So we tried Ruta for 1 week and he was completely healed. He went back to running. He went back to doing everything as normal. He never needed surgery. Then I had another friend who had a wrist injury, same thing. Doctor said, no, it's going to have to be surgery. Nothing is working. They've been trying something for 3 months, 4 months. Tried Ruta again. Within 3 days, it was completely gone. So Ruta is a really fantastic one to look at for joint injuries. Another really good one is Bryonia alba, which is wild hops. So this is when you have really stitching pain, really like red, hot, swollen, inflamed joints. Very weak. It's with like acute arthritis. It can be very helpful. Any motion hurts. Like, it's just any type of little bit of motion hurts really bad. Warmth makes it worse. And they feel very irritable and grumpy. That's a keynote for Bryonia. So you got someone who's got a painful knee and they're just I'm just grumpy and super irritable, look to Bryonia. And then another really good one for joints is Rust toxicodendron, which is poison ivy, which is another interesting one. Also, if you ever get poison ivy out, you know, in a forest or something, Rust toxicodendron is what cures it. Very interesting, isn't it? So this we call the rusty gait remedy. So this is where when you first start moving, it hurts, but then once you limber up and start going, it feels a lot better. So that's why we call that the rusty gait. Once we get it moving, it feels better. It's like a tearing, burning pain. Think of what would happen if you got poison ivy. You feel that like burning, really sharp pain. It's stiffness, cramping. They feel very restless. That's also a keynote for Rust toxicodendron. Cracking joints, worse from cold, better from heat, whereas some of them have the opposite. So those are all things to look at. Okay, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to take this Ruta right now. How many should I do?
So take a 30C. So put your little 2 or 3 in your capsule.
2 or 3. Okay.
Yeah, 2 or 3 is fine. So give it a little shake first, just to kind of make sure you shake it up. 2 or 3 in the capsule, pop your mouth, and just, is it for your knee?
It's for my whole everything.
Are you just sore your whole body?
Yeah.
Like from
Hips mostly. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, you could try that. You could try Ruta for the hips for sure.
Okay.
I would do arnica too, alternating, because arnica will bring down the inflammation that you're probably getting, which is causing the pain. And then the other ones will work on like the joint stuff that's going on.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about respiratory illness and if you're exposed to viruses. We can't talk about specific respiratory illnesses, but we can talk about a really nasty respiratory illness that's going on right now. Okay, so if you are exposed to a respiratory illness, but you are not symptomatic yet, the general thing that homeopaths do is they give arsenicum album 200C, and you do that once a day for 3 full days. When there was a really nasty respiratory illness going through India, the Indian government recommended that their people do this because 60-something% of homeopaths in India, medical doctors in India use homeopathy. So they had a lot of people in the country taking arsenicum album 200C, or I think they're even taking a higher dose, but for you 200C, and they had much lower incidence of the nasty respiratory illness. This is also good for really anything. Like if you know, like, oh my gosh, we just came back from my mom's and she has the flu. Or, you know, so we just came back, my kid just came back from school and 3 kids have a stomach flu and they were puking all over the classroom or something. This is a good, I've been exposed, I'm not symptomatic yet. This is a good thing that might stop it in its tracks, okay? If you've been exposed and you're starting to show initial symptoms, oscillococcinum, okay, and I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen this already. You've seen this in the stores before, that really long name no one can pronounce, including me. Okay, this stuff is like magic. So this is interestingly made from duck liver. I don't know how they figure this stuff out, seriously. How do you figure out duck liver does this? But it's a really important virus interrupter. So this is really good for viruses, the flu, respiratory viruses. Taken at first signs of symptoms, it can really stop it from replicating. Okay, so a good dosing is a 30C 3 times a day for several days. You can also rotate that with aconite 30C twice a day for several days. So aconite is another really good first line remedy when you first get sick, you're first starting to show symptoms. Aconite is really helpful along with other ones too, but it's really helpful at stopping it from turning into something nastier. So again, we're not exactly sure what these things are doing in the body, but we think it's like stopping the replication of these viruses. So when you first get a virus, it's trying to grow and replicate and grow and grow and grow and grow. If you stop the replication from happening, your body can handle it. If you let it replicate and you're 3 days into it and you're like in you know, really bad shape, it's much harder to treat because it's now all over and your body's getting overwhelmed by it. So the best way you can do it is stop it right at the very beginning. So cell salts in the first stage of nasty respiratory illnesses. Ferrum phos is really good for inflammation, and Kali Mur is another really good one. Second stage, when it turns into like a cough, if it's a dry cough, Mag phos and Silica 6X, both those in a 6X. So these are all cell salts. If it turns into a wet rattling cough, Cal phos 6X and Ferrum phos 6X. There's also, so my school also makes a really great 3-stage respiratory formula for 3 different stages of certain respiratory illnesses. And you can actually buy it from them. So they're like $15 a bottle. I have to check to see, I don't know if you can just call and buy it or if you have to have like a practitioner get it for you and send it to you. But if you're interested in having that, you know, they're $15 a bottle. You've got that on hand. Again, it's like lasts indefinitely. I recommend that people just have that on hand, because what's tricky about respiratory illnesses is when it has multiple stages, at each stage, it could be any of 15 remedies that you need. You need a homeopath to treat you. Then it moves to the next stage. It could be any of 15 to 20 remedies. So unless you have a homeopath that's working you through each one of those stages, it's tricky. But these combination formulas have like the combinations in the right amounts and the right potencies of the, you know, top 10 to 15 remedies for that stage with the cell salt. So it's just a really good thing to have on hand just in case you get a respiratory illness. Okay. Melatonin has also been shown to be really good for respiratory illnesses. The dosage is 3 milligrams twice a day. They're finding it does something to stop the virus for some reason. It has some type of antioxidant activity, and it seems to be helping with certain people. Also, vitamin C in high doses is really good. 6,000 is a good amount, broken up to several times a day. If you start getting really loose stools, you can back off a little bit. Vitamin D, 6,000 I use, split into 2 doses for about a week's time. You don't want to do any of these for like 3 weeks. Like a week is about good for those. Increasing your zinc, so zinc sulfate, zinc picolinate, or chelated zinc. You can do up to 100 milligrams for a couple of days. Then you want to scale back down. You don't want to be on that for more than a couple days. So high dose zinc is really good for stopping viruses. If you go for too long, you can throw off your zinc copper balance. So you want to go back down to like 30 milligrams for the rest of the treatment. It's also really good preventative to just take that during, you know, cold and flu season. Okay, so any questions there? Okay, so some resources, and again, I'll post these all on the Facebook page, but homeopathic remedies, if you're only going to get one book, I would get this one. The second one I would get, Homeopathic Self-Care. This is another really good book. Again, it just has it by different types of illnesses and the top, you know, 5-6 remedies or so. If you have young children, Homeopathic Medicine for Children and Infants is a fantastic book too, because sometimes certain remedies are a little bit more specific to kids. So this is just a really good one to have on hand. And then again, if you really were kind of spark your interest in the cell salts, this is just a great cell salt book, and it has the different conditions and cell salts that you can use to target those conditions. All right, and then, okay, yeah, everything else mostly you can get at Sprouts, like with the salts, the flower essences. I know a couple of you got these little kits already, so if anyone else is interested in these are 50 remedy kits. So if you think you're going to start using homeopathy, you can start just going to buy a couple from the store. They're about $8 for, you know, a container. But what you'll quickly find is like you're using a lot of them, and then next thing you know, it turns into you buy 10 of them and you've spent $100+. So if you feel like you're going to be using it a lot, this is a really good investment to make, because they're about $125. I give like a 10% discount, so it comes out to like 112 or something. So this is for 50 of the top remedies. So, you know, obviously, again, if you're going to buy them one at a time, you'll spend double that trying to get 25 remedies. So start using them if you're kind of new to it. And if you feel like, man, I'm using these, these are really working, I really want to start incorporating more, really the best thing to do is just to get a kit and just bite the bullet, because you'll save a ton of money over time doing that. There's also 100 remedy kits, but again, that's kind of when you've gotten into using it a little bit more. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have. So if you have questions, I'd love to use the Facebook page, like post a question on there, and then, you know, we can answer it, and that way everyone can see the question and the answer. If you have other questions, always, you know, contact me. I'm always happy to help. I don't charge money to give you advice, or, you know, if it's something I can just tell you off the top of my head, I'm always happy to do that, because I want you to start using it and being successful. But if you find it's something where you're struggling to find the right remedy and you really want to have like an acute case taken, just let me know, and then we just do, you know, an acute case where I take the whole case, and then I spend hours looking through all the remedies and I have like computer software that plugs all the symptoms in and then pulls out the right remedies, and then we look through those. So that's another option too. And if you have a chronic condition that you're interested in having treated, just let me know, and I can refer you to my homeopath, who's amazing, and she can take really good care of you. So any other questions?
I have a question on the kit.
Yes.
Let's say you use a couple more often than others. Can you purchase just a refill?
Yeah, so you can purchase just the refill, or what I can also teach you to do is called grafting. And so what you can do is just buy a bottle of plain, the little sugar pellets. And then what you do is you put them in the bottle. So say you're down to like a third of the bottle. You can put the plain sugar pellets in there, add a couple of drops of alcohol, like Everclear type alcohol, or I have like an organic alcohol on hand. Shake it up, and you've got a whole new bottle of remedy. So even the few that are left in there, it is able to leave the energetic imprint on the rest of the bottle. So you can essentially make that kit last forever just by getting a small bottle of like the sugar pellets.
And the Everclear won't melt them? That's crazy.
No, you put just a couple drops in there, and you give it a really quick shake, and you know, it'll just distribute throughout the whole thing. So
cool. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, but if you get low, just let me know. And before you run out, and we'll do the grafting on it.
What are the kit options? There's 2 different ones.
So there's a 50 remedy. They're all 30C for acute. There's a 50 remedy kit, and then there's a 100 remedy kit. So 100 remedy has like everything you could possibly need. 50 is like the top 50. So I started off, when I first started using it for Trace's vaccine injury, I got my first kit, and this is the same kit 6 years later. So I think I'd replaced one of them, Nux Vomica. I was using a little too much for my margarita nights. And but the rest of them I've had the entire time, and I use a lot of homeopathy. So
do you are all the ones you talked about tonight in that basic kit?
Yep. Okay. Everything's in there, yeah. So I can put a list too on the Facebook page of like all the remedies that are on there. But yeah, basically the ones that you use the most often. You'll sometimes, when you start working, if you have to work with a homeopath because you're like, oh, I've tried and it's not working and I need someone to help me, sometimes we'll find a weird remedy that's not in the kit. You know what I mean? So that can happen. There's sometimes like just an off remedy that seems to be the best one, but usually you can get close to it with those most common remedies. So I don't think I strayed from this kit for like probably the first 3 or 4 years. And then I, you know, once I started studying it, then I wanted to use a lot of unusual kits, and then now I'm here.
And how much is the, wow. How much is the base, the 51? Is that the $100?
Okay, so the 50C is like $125. I can't sell it for less than the you know, retail amount, but I can give you coupons. So what I do is 10% off that. So that's for that kit. And then the 200C, or I'm sorry, the 100 remedy kit is like $225, and then I do 20% off that one. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's something to think about. Again, I always say if you're just starting, start first by just going and getting a couple from Sprouts, you know what I mean? And try it first. And if you find like, wow, I can't believe this is working. And then you're finding you're going back and getting more and getting more. Don't get to the point where you've just bought 15 at $8 a pop. You know what I mean? Just to say, forget it. I'm just going to get the kit, you know, because it'll just save you a lot of money. It works out to like $2 and yeah, like $2, you know, a little over $2 a container versus the $8. You know what I mean? So.
I didn't know that you weren't supposed to store them near like I had mine next to the stove. I didn't know that you were supposed to kind of keep them, you know, right under the microwave. So does that mean that like they're probably ruined?
Right under the, like you keeping them out in the open, or are they in a cupboard?
They're out in the open.
You could try it. I mean, try them. You know, if they still work, then they're okay. It's not definitely you're going to antidote it, but there's a chance you could do that. So.
Well, I moved them. They've been moved ever since. They've been moved for a while, but they were there for a while. So.
Yeah, you could try it. Like, you know, one that you've tried before that you know what I mean, that maybe you know has worked before. You can try it. Like, for example, you know, living in Arizona, one year I got a kit sent to me, and it like I didn't know it arrived because it arrived early, and it sat in like 120-degree mailbox for like 5 days. And then I got it out because extreme heat can also do that. And I tried the remedies and none of them worked. And so I told her, I was like, it's all of them are ruined. So you can do that with like really high heat and stuff. So it can happen. I'm not, you know, I would say try it first. Like maybe you and I can find a remedy, a targeted remedy, give it a try. And if you're like, then it could be that they've been antidoted.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, so just keep them in a dark place. Find yourself a cute little box, or, you know, if you don't have a kit, just find, you know, a little zipper pouch to put them in or something, and just try and keep them in a cool, dark place. Like maybe where you keep your supplements or something.
Yeah, I definitely moved them, but now I'm like, I had quite a few that I was keeping.
Well, you could try. It's not to say, I mean, homeopathy, again, the 200-year-old kit was still working. So there's a good chance it can still, but it may have just, you know, brought the potency down a little bit, or brought the effectiveness down a little bit. So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how long does it take a remedy to actually service? I know you said.
Totally depends on the situation, but for acute illnesses with adults, generally within like an hour, you should start feeling a little bit better. Usually it's like a mental symptom that will get better first. Like all of a sudden you're like, you know, you've got a fever and all this, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't feel so irritable, or I don't feel so just like the world's coming. Something changes. That's how you know it's starting to work. So, you know, if it's starting to change, you're starting to feel better, you kind of want to wait and see, and you should start over time feeling better. So a lot of factors, like how long has it been going on? How serious is it? You know, how impacted is your health in other ways? Those are all things that can affect it.
Okay, I was just wondering because the literal pain in my ass is less.
Feeling better. Yeah.
Like it's literally right in the middle of my ass cheek.
Yeah. And you took the Ruta. Yeah. I mean, they can work within 5 minutes. Sometimes they take longer, but you know, I've taken Arnica before where the soreness was better in a few minutes. You know, I've given my kids, you know, my son one time was, I don't know what was wrong with him, light fever, but he was just like inconsolable, screaming at me, I hate you, mommy, get out of here, which is so unlike him. I'm like, what is wrong with this child? And I gave him chamomilla, and literally within like 2 minutes, he like sits up in bed and was like, can I come downstairs and watch a show with you, mommy? I was like, you know, so cool. You'll see miracles like that where you're like, oh my gosh, you know. And then other things take a little bit longer to work, but if you feel like some things are changing, you're probably on the right track. You can also take a remedy and feel some improvement, but after a few doses, you don't feel full improvement, or you just feel like you just kind of have stagnated. That's a good time to talk to me, because sometimes you might need a higher potency. Other times you might be on a close remedy, but not the perfect remedy. So sometimes that can happen too.
Okay, well, it's just interesting because, I mean, this has been going on for 5+ years, every single day. So
your butt pain like that?
Yes.
Take another one before you go to bed, and I would take it once a day or twice a day if you feel the pain coming back for like 3 days, and then see where you're at after that.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you know. I was just curious.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
So as far as the Facebook page, guys, again, post questions in there. I'll be posting little things just to kind of educate or whatever. But if you find things you want to post, go ahead and do that. As far as like homeopathy stuff, if you post like, oh my gosh, my kid's sick, I'm not going to help you cure your kid on Facebook, but I can try and point you in the right direction. And then if you really feel like you can't figure it out, that's when you come to me and we could do like an acute care visit or something like that. So. Okay, but I want you trying first so that you can feel confident using it and start to learn to use it, because, the more you learn to use it, the more you just feel so empowered that you don't have to go to the doctor for everything, that you can cure it at home. I mean, it's really amazing. It's really just quite a gift that we've been given, this type of medicine. And so I'm just so happy to share it with other people.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, let me know, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.